It's time to fight. If you down to fight, then let's start the strike.
Welcome to the Shut It Down podcast. This is Randy Corrigan, your host, the director of the Amazon division for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. This is breaking news. We wanted to hurry up and get a couple of people on to talk about what has just happened. Amazon and the Teamsters have reached a national agreement to protect the right to strike at all 1,300 Amazon facilities across the country. This breaking news it's exciting in a lot of ways, but it's really been driven by workers and what workers have done on the shop floor to make it happen. The agreement was reached after a series of meetings mediated by the National Labor Relations Board. Amazon agreed to protect the unpaid time off, which is called UPT, when they go on strike. Very important for workers who are actually walking off the job and who are engaging in protected concerted activities. Every worker who lost UPT because they went on strike will get their UPT back, get it restored. This happened because the shop floor militancy of Amazon Teamsters. We have Novelette and Josh here. Novelette from Staten Island, from JFK 8, and Josh from DCK 6 in the Bay Area. They're here today from their buildings representing their workforce, talking about how they participated in these strikes and these actions that led to this happening, as well as how UPT affected them.
Hi, everyone. I'm Novelette. I'm from JFK 8. I have been with Amazon for the last 6 years. I've been organizing for the last 3 years with JFK 8.
Hi, my name is Josh Black. I'm with DCK 6 in San Francisco. We're a delivery station. I have been working there for just about 3 years and been organizing there for about 2 years. And we went public, demanding union recognition about a year ago.
Thank you both for being on. And I imagine this has got to be a good victory for you, as well as how are your coworkers feeling? Novelette, why don't you raise that up first and tell us how your coworkers are feeling about this victory?
We are actually elated. Today's win is bigger than a headline story. You know, it is proof that when we actually come together and work together as a team, we actually move the needle. This victory shows a power that doesn't lie in corporate office. It lies on the shop floor. And whenever we stand together and work together as a team, our voices become louder. This is the victory that we won because we decide to stand and work together. So it shows the power of workers coming together.
Absolutely. Every strike, every collective action you guys have done has been successful, even though Amazon tried to use UPT as a weapon against the workers. Josh, how are your coworkers feeling about this victory too?
It's just really emboldened people. We know that we can go on strike and Amazon has to follow the law. They've said they will follow the law in the future and won't punish us for using our protected rights.
Hey, Josh, I got a quick question for those that listen that maybe aren't from Amazon. You know, what is UPT? How does it work? And why is it such a big deal for Amazon workers in this moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm sure everybody who's listening who's not an Amazon warehouse worker has no idea what we're talking about because Amazon is a very strange place to work, and not in a good way. One thing that's really strange is we do not get an awful lot of paid time off. You know, you say PTO to somebody at UPS or FedEx, and they know exactly what PTO is, but the problem that Amazon, I think, ran into is they didn't want to give us the PTO that's standard across the country in our industry.
Yeah, in the industry.
And so, but they had a problem that people still had lives outside of work, that people still got sick, people still got in car accidents, people still had to take care of their kids and pick them up from school and have all those things that we all deal with in our lives. And so they developed this new system that's unpaid time off, which is basically what it sounds like. Like it's a bank. You earn it just like you earn PTO every time you work at Amazon. You earn a little bit of fee to go along with a little bit of you earn. And if you don't have PTO to use and you need to be late or you need to be absent, you use those hours of UPT. So again, very, very strange, very, very Amazon that they basically invented this whole new system that, as far as I know, nobody else is using. So the reason this is such a big deal to us is, you know, they try to play it like it's a benefit. can take off this time and you don't get penalized. But really, it's a way of disciplining us. The only reason UPT matters is because if your UPT goes below 0, that's when you can be terminated. And that's when they will tell you, if you get that notification that your termination has started because your UPT is in the negative, the managers will tell you there's nothing they can do about it. It's basically entirely automated from that point. They tell you that's just how the system works. So when we were trying to rally the troops to go on strike, even people on our organizing committee sometimes tell me, I'm scared. I don't know if I can do this because Amazon, if my UPT goes below 0, even if I have enough for the strike, I might need it next week. I might get sick. It's cold and flu season. It's December. I might have planned to use this to travel after our peak season is over. And what am I going to do then? I won't be able to travel to go see my parents or whatever the case may be. We all have to use it for different reasons.
And clearly it was against the law for Amazon to use this when you're doing protected concerted activity. This is something that they should not be requiring you to utilize your UPT bank. So
exactly.
Novelette, why is this important?
UPT, as the acronym is unpaid time. UPT is about dignity. It's time that you need to do stuff that you normally want to do, to spend time with your family. It is not time that Amazon is paying for. It's actually free time, yet Amazon used this UPT as a punishment instead of a safety net. So when they took this UPT from us, they're taking away our safety net. Our right that if we're sick, we can use that time. If we want to go out with our family, we can use that time away from work. So actually being able to get back this time for us, it's big power. It's, as Josh alluded to, when we were going on strike, a lot of people did not want to participate because they were afraid that the UPT is too low. They won't have the time to go with their family. So getting back this UPT, and that in the future, Amazon can take it from us again when we decide to take action. This has now empowered people to be more emboldened to take more collective action, that if we're going on strike again, we expect that we will have a majority strike, because Amazon cannot use this anymore as a punishment, as a to say, have people staying in the building. People can go, and stand on the picket line. We can have more demands being met.
Yeah, and to your point, this came to a head last December 2024 when the big strike happened and workers, clearly engaged in this process. What was it like being part of that strike for the two of you? Novelette, go ahead and go first.
For me, it was actually real power stepping out there at one of Amazon's biggest time is Christmas. The gifts need to go. The gifts need to be packed. People waiting on their packages. It's not that we wanted to affect the customers, but that is the only way that we could do to shut it down. So out there on the picket line, with rallying with our coworkers, demanding respect, it was so powerful. It sends a message to say that how much power that the worker have out there. So we took the power from Amazon when we go out there. The community was out there with us, supporting us. It was just an electrifying moment out there.
Josh, what was it like to participate in that strike?
It was really incredible. It was a feeling of real power, as Novelette said. And I was just so proud of all of my coworkers who, in spite of the fact that they were scared, in spite of the fact that Amazon wanted to scare them with this issue of UPT, and that we didn't know in that moment if we were ever going to get this UPT back. And in reality, it took over a year for us to get it back. But in spite of those challenges, those fears, I was just so proud of all of my coworkers who walked out the plant, stayed on the picket line for 48 hours straight. And, one quote I heard recently that really stuck with me is, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the commitment to do something even when you are afraid, to do something that you are afraid of. That's real courage. And that's what I saw that day, is courage from all of my coworkers who did that.
To that point, obviously Amazon likes to try to use the fear tactic on losing UPT as a strategy to try to discourage. How did you overcome that yourself, Josh? Let's start with Josh on this one first.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about people that were scared, I count myself in that group. And some of the examples are things I was thinking about. I was thinking about cold and flu season. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and sometimes colds and flus hit me harder than they hit other people. I have other comorbidities that go with that. And I had travel planned to visit family, for the kind of that week between Christmas and New Year's, where it's really usually pretty slow in the warehouse. I did not have a lot of UPT to spare in that moment. I kind of was doing all the calculations and figured out a way that I was pretty sure I could make it work as long as nothing went wrong. And luckily nothing went wrong. And that's why I'm still here. And, Amazon wasn't able to find a way to fire me. But it was honestly, even for our strongest supporters, it was something that we all really had to think about to make sure that it was something we could do.
Yeah, and Novelette, you actually, your group did some things around protecting workers when Amazon tried to discipline or fire workers after the strike. You fought back. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. When we did the strike, many of our coworkers went into negative and would have lost their jobs. But as a collective, we made sure that we got everyone back to work. Prior to the strike, we would have sent in a letter to Amazon to say, hey, these persons will be going on strike. So after the strike, we make sure that we have everyone's name that went on strike. As soon as they get terminated, we said, hey, reach out. If you get terminated, reach out. We do marches on the boss to make sure that everyone got back their jobs and get it back with back pay. It was a tremendous effort by the team to make sure that no one who participated in the action actually stayed out of work.
Yeah, this is incredible. Hearing how, clearly everybody always, the fear kind of creeps in, you know what I mean? Like you think about this, you think about that, especially in a situation like this where people are doing something that's outside the norm. And then, obviously the employer will do the things that they do, this huge corporation doing everything they can to try to limit workers' protected concerted activity, use the system, trying to rig the system to create and discourage workers from doing it. It's for me, it's always inspiring to hear how you process through those challenges and just rose above and said, we got to do what we got to do. This is the moment that we got to do it. And because when we look back in history and we look at those who really threw down to give us some basics that we kind of take for granted now, and clearly things still got to improve, but in the 1910s, 1920s, things were pretty bad, and workers did some incredibly heroic things in the face of really no protections. And so we owe it to them to occupy this space. And hearing you say what you're saying kind of reminds me of those very stories from, obviously 100 years ago, and how workers won protections over and over again as time has gone on. And so that militancy is kind of bleeding into the shop floor. Tell us about how that feels to be around that, and also how workers' vulnerability kind of lifts when they feel each other helping each other out. That's got to feel great as a coworker, as a peer, somebody working around individuals like that. Novelette, why don't you go first on describing that?
Randy, when you see one person coming back, it gives the other person hope. So it keeps hope alive, and people know that they're not fighting alone. They're fighting together. And when something happens, they don't have to stand up by themselves. They have a collective that will stand by them. It then became a bigger movement. So not only did we have just a few people, more people want to join the fight because they see that they have support. They have a group of people, they have a team that is committed to working together to getting things done. So, Amazon will think twice when they think about the discipline that they will give to people, because they know that they have people that will march on the shop floor, come to the office to demand the respect that every co-worker deserves. So when anything happened, like firings happen, we go down. We do it as a team and go down and represent our co-workers. So now, I mean, the atmosphere in the building would have changed. You have more people starting to come to the different meetings that we have and want to be a part of the movement that is going on. So, I mean, it's just a great feeling.
And it should be, because, it's incredibly ridiculous for Amazon and these big corporations to kind of create this environment to make you feel like utilizing your right, your First Amendment right, your protected concerted activity, your right to protected concerted activity, that using your right to strike is somehow going to lead to a negative. Like that is one of the foundations of this country under the First Amendment: freedom to assemble, freedom of speech. Our First Amendment is absolutely protected, and it's crazy that corporate America wants to twist and turn some of the rules to make you feel fearful in that moment. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, regardless of that, it's got to feel incredible for you to not only move the government, but move a corporation collectively with your power. Because had you not moved them, had you not challenged it, had you not done exactly what you did and what thousands of other workers did with you, had you not done that, then the rule would still be there, right? You challenged it, so you got the government to support you, and then you got the company, this big corporation, to agree, all because you're union. All because you've participated, you've engaged, you've taken that militancy to the shop floor. I mean, that's a big deal, and that cannot be understated enough. How does it feel, Josh, to be at the center of something that powerful?
It's huge. We've seen how Amazon's tactic in our battle for recognition, oftentimes it's just, we'll delay, we'll appeal, we'll try to make it take as long as possible. And the fact that in this case, we actually got them to admit fault and reverse the decision they'd made in the past without it even having to go to a trial. Like, this shows how they knew they were wrong. They knew that there was no way they could win this on its own merits. And, one of the other things I was thinking about is we did many marches on the boss for this and for other reasons. And as I've been talking a lot about the fear that Amazon tries to instill in us, the thing that was so powerful about that for me is the way it turned the tables. I saw the fear in the manager's eyes for the first time. And that's, if you think about it, there's a lot more of us than there are of them. There aren't that many managers in our delivery station. There's a lot of employees.
You win out every time. You outnumber them. You win every time. You guys do all the work.
Yeah, and I remember a moment. A manager came up to me. They prefer, of course, to talk one-on-one than to talk to all of us at once about things like this. But after we'd done a march on the boss, she said, "I just want to let you know, we've took the people who had gone into the negative UPT and we brought them back up to zero." And I said, "Oh, you can't just bring them back up to zero. You got to bring them back up to where they were before the strike. You've got to refund a lot of them, it was 48 hours. A lot of them lost 2 days of UPT, which is 16 hours. I said, they shouldn't be getting, if they went into the negative 2 hours, don't refund 2 hours, refund 16 hours. And, I remember in that moment, looking her in the eye and saying, what you're doing is illegal. You're punishing people for doing something that they have the right to do. And once again, I saw that fear in her eyes. And I knew at some point we were going to win. when every time I saw that fear, I didn't know how long it would take, but I knew we were going to be celebrating this day at some point.
Novelette, talk about that fear shift, because that's an incredible moment. As an organizer, I've always loved to hear workers talk about that moment that fear shifts from the workers over to management. Talk about that.
Randy, before I talk about that, I just want to share this experience. after the strike, I had a conversation with a senior, and I was saying to them that Amazon is just so wicked in that the UPTs, like free water, is something that they're not paying you for. And instead of allowing the river to flow, they rather to go and use something to block it off so that the people don't get it. And that's how I saw them taking the UPT from us. They would rather to spend millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to court to have it settled more than to give back something that is for free, something that they're not paying for. And that's how much they'd rather to squeeze the neck of us workers than giving us something that is for free. So taking back this power from Amazon, it's tremendous. I mean, now they see that when workers stand together, what it is that we can achieve. The more of us that speak out, they see what the results are, or what the results can be, and what the results is when we speak up together. So, I mean, this on itself is just a big victory for us. I know it is something that Amazon did not want to do, because when they withhold it, it therefore means for them that it will deter a lot of people from taking action. So this by itself giving us back our UPT, it now emboldened the other thousands of employees who did not take action. Now people will now be emboldened to take action. So this is more power that we have gotten from Amazon, and we didn't get it. We fought for it. They didn't give it to us, because if they gave it to us, then they would have said, oh, it's something that was just given to them. But it's something that we as a collective fought for. We stood up together, and now today we can be celebrating that victory that we have won. So initially, people thought that, oh, Amazon won, they took their UPT, and people had to be working back from negative. But no, today it shows the power that the workers have.
Yeah, and for all those naysayers that say Amazon will never agree to anything, guess what? It's on paper. We can see it's actually an agreement. This is the settlement. This is what's going to happen, and it's in place. So not only have there been thousands of situations across this country where workers on the shop floor have gained changes by them exercising their rights under this union, they've also now inked an agreement by doing the very things that you just described, and Amazon is required to now follow. And obviously you guys are part of every bit of that, and that's got to be it's just absolutely remarkable. And that's where that power dynamic happens and shifts, and that's where that fear shifts back over to the other side. In other words, fear is now on the employer side. What advice do you have for other workers? Let's start with you, Novelette, first, and I'll move over to Josh. What advice do you have kind of in this space? Because, sky's the limit. Union workers, thousands of issues are outlined in a union contract. Clearly what you're doing, because of Amazon's approach to failing to recognize and failing to bargain, is what you're doing is you're taking control of the shop floor, and you're forcing issue after issue after issue to be addressed. And clearly in a union environment, these are not issues that we run into regularly. I always want to make sure that comparison is out there, because sometimes people in the union environment, it's so good they kind of take it for granted a bit. Yeah, it's hard work, but a lot of these rules that have to be fought for, you're fighting for it. Like you're sinking your teeth in. It's like a pit bull on a pork chop, man. You're like, I'm not letting go until I get a taste of this. And you clearly did that. You stuck to it, made this happen, and really, when you really look at it, a pretty short period of time. And it's because so many of you did so much across the entire system. What advice do you have related to that, Novelette, for others, for other workers?
What I tell other workers is that get off the sideline. Stop standing out there and looking in. Get off and join the fight. It was Shirley Chisholm who says that the greatest stereotype is not the stereotype that others put on you, but is a stereotype that you put on yourself when you say that you don't deserve better. We deserve better than what we are getting. So I'm begging our fellow co-workers, join the fight. Get off the sideline, get into the fight, because we have the power. No longer is the power embedded in the corporate office, it's embedded on the shop floor, not in the offices, it's on the floor that we have the fight. You have the power. Don't ever allow Amazon or any other company to think that they have the power. You take that power and take the fight to them.
Yeah, workers have the power. Workers do all the work. Workers decide whether or not the operation is going to happen or not. You all have complete power. It's whether or not you want to exercise it. And I think that your example right now just really solidifies that point. And I think that workers have a tendency to kind of go through the motions. They're trying to do the best they can, and they kind of forget that they have that power. Clearly, corporate America tries to make them forget that, right? But really, your story and what you're sharing is an inspiration to others, making sure that they understand that they do have that power. Don't ever relinquish it, because they will quickly abuse it. You mentioned something about the industry, what you deserve. Clearly, for more than 100 years, the Teamsters have represented this industry. And we see what Amazon believes is the industry standard, and it's terrible. You compare yourself to anybody that's worked in the industry for a very long time. They're not leaving those companies and going to work for Amazon. What Amazon does is they try to prey on everybody that's never been in the industry to understand what a real industry standard is. Because you're right, you deserve more. You're right, workers deserve more and deserve better. And Amazon should be ashamed of the fact that they have policies like this and they pay people the way they do, to where they're the second biggest employer in this country, and workers go to work for Amazon and can't afford to buy a home. That is insane. That is unacceptable. It's great to see what you're doing. Josh, what would you like to share with other workers on what advice would you give them on what they think they got to do kind of in this discussion?
Well, I'd say start out by getting to know your coworkers. Start out by talking to people about what you're experiencing, and ask people questions and find out what they're experiencing. And that was the first step, I feel like, for how we got organized at DCK6. And that's how you got to start. I mean, hang out with people outside of work. A lot of this stuff, like I said, it's scary when you start doing it. But it's that first step is super important. And once you start talking, you realize there's people that are ready to talk to you, and reach out to your local Teamsters office. We've gotten nothing but wonderful support from our local Teamsters, in just planning and collaborating and figuring out the best way to move forward with these kinds of actions. And it's just I guess one of the things I learned from this experience that we just had, getting this agreement on paper, is the reason we got it is because we made it so it was harder for them to not sign the paper than to sign it. Like I said, it was all the marches on the boss, all the confrontations, all of the stuff that was scary in the moment, but scared them more than it scared us. So we got to take that lesson and move forward with it. We've got to make sure next time we go on strike, it's got to be impossible for them to ignore us, because we've got to have not just 15 or 20 sites. We've got to have 100 sites next time, I think. And then they can't ignore us. They're going to have to listen to us. They're going to have to give us what we deserve.
Yeah, and you made a point earlier I just want to kind of drill back down on, which is other workers in the industry. You've when you're on strike, you're meeting them. They're talking about what's going on in the industry, obviously something that you strive for. How does it make you feel seeing so many workers in the industry in your community being supportive? Because understand something, you're inspiring them. I know that you're striving to get a piece of what they got, but you're also inspiring them because they're watching you take on a huge corporation like you are, and they're moved by that fact, whether they're a community leader or let's say they work at UPS, they work at a grocery company or whatever it may be in the area. They're coming together to try to make something happen with you. How does that make you feel being part of that bigger movement in the industry?
It's amazing. When we went on strike in 2024, I was just blown away by the amount of support we got from all around the community in San Francisco. We had teachers, we had other Teamsters from UPS there. We had people that just supported us because they felt like it was the right thing to do. People that were retired or people that were just sitting at home and saw it on the news and said, I want to be there. And it was just amazing to see how the community came together, but especially organized labor, especially people from that industry, like you said, was really remarkable to see all the people walking on the picket lines with us.
Novelette, what was it like seeing the community descend on you like that? How did it make you feel?
It shows us that we are not alone. We have people that support us. We have people that hear our cry, people that understand the struggles that we are going through. People came out from all walks of life, all the different sectors. We have politicians that was on the picket line with us. We had from the various unions, from our own local communities, all across the different boroughs. People were just there understanding our cries. And as much as people wasn't getting their packages on time, people understand us. There's no community member that was out there quarreling to say that, oh, you should go back to work, because guess what? They understand the corporate greed and they wanted to support us. So they came out there. It was absolutely cold, but the cold did not deter anyone. Everybody was out there singing, chanting. It was just like a festive season. Like we were it was like we were inside. We had warmth, as much as it was snowing. It was very, very cold, blistering cold. But despite that, people stood out there with us day and night because we run a 24-hour operation. We were out there from dusk till dawn, every single minute of the day. And the community was right there with us, showing us up for us, supporting us, encouraging us. And that to me was very important. Sometimes that when you are alone, you might feel like, oh, I can't bother. It is too cold. Let's go in. But no, people were out there every day. More and more people just keep showing up.
Look, the work that you did, really the fundamental shift in making Amazon recognize that you have the right to strike, and this settlement protects that. In other words, they've had to admit that you have that. And I just think it's really important for us to reiterate that and make sure that listeners understand and recognize that this is huge and that no matter what somebody may say or what your fear is, now you have it in writing that you have the ability to engage in strikes and your UPT is not going to be negatively affected by it. And I think you both touched on something that clearly the next step is the next time it's going to be bigger for a lot of reasons. One, there's a lot more of you that are doing this. We're seeing it all over man. I tell you, when you guys did what you did, we got calls from all over the country saying, "Oh man, when you bring in a picket line to us, we want to go." I mean, we were blown away by the amount of people that wanted to walk off the job across the entire country, and I think that fear should be in Amazon's eyes. That's for darn sure. And you led them. This should be an inspiration that you led them right through it. And then the issue that clearly they tried to use to try to pigeonhole people and fear them is now done, away, moved off. So the next time you shut it down, it's going to be bigger. Isn't that right? Josh, Novelette, what do you think about that?
Well, you are right about that, Randy, that the next time it is absolutely going to be bigger. I think that when they took the UPT from us, they were hoping that, we're going to get this organized. But throughout that, we stayed organized. We keep showing up. It was just like, you have a bad cold that you can't just shirk it off. Every time we keep going back, we're there every time, showing up, doing all these marches. And the more they try to shut us down, the more we get bigger. So now with this win, we are now emboldened. It's his power. And then guess what? The more of us speak up, the louder our voices are. So with this win, it therefore means that we will become too loud to be ignored.
That is right. Josh, what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. I just can't wait to see how we use this power to really take it to Amazon, because they should know there's more strikes coming. We're not going to say when or where or how it's going to happen, but we know the next one is definitely going to be bigger. The first one, like I said, the amazing thing was, in spite of all that, in spite of that fear, it was still the largest strike that Amazon's ever dealt with in North America. So what do they think the next one is going to be? You know, they had to show their hand. They had to do this. They realized that it was their only way out was to sign this deal with us. And now the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly earlier when you said there's more of us than them. So
exactly.
Great job, you guys. I think it's really important for us to just seize the moment for a minute, recognize the fact that you nailed it. You held the line. You jumped into the space and made it happen. Workers were obviously inspired by it, thousands of them. And now, and like you said, it's going to be bigger in the future. And every one of you, we were all kind of smiling because we know how much bigger the future is because we know the impact that was made as time went on. And again, we appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your story with everybody, because guess what? Sharing the story is what helps get the message out to other workers. And you're not just an inspiration to workers at Amazon. You're an inspiration to workers everywhere. Non-union workers across this country are looking at you. You know that every time a video goes out and you see 20, 25 million view it, that those workers are watching going, man, we could do that too. This is amazing. And where workers can connect to this, if you're listening, is teamster.org/Amazon. Make sure you connect. If you got questions, you want to connect, teamster.org/Amazon to join this movement. Just like these amazing workers right here, just changed one of the biggest corporations on the face of the planet, held them accountable, made them do the right thing. Millions more inspired by you. Thanks for being on this show. What an incredible show. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now because I know you made history by making it happen, and you got more workers that are looking to make history again in the future. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Randy. Thanks for shining a light on this victory with the podcast. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate.
You heard it right here. Shut it down, the Amazon Teamster podcast. You can do it too. Make it happen.
Corporate greed is disgusting. Instead of us, they'd rather pay for union busting. Somebody said the working man a sucker. They took the stand and ran like a high jumper. Teamsters Local 804, we not having that. We gon' stand here and fight for fair contract. Fair wages on the table.